Back then, guys, after a couple of weeks off for summer holidays, we are back with the Martial View. And what a way to kickstart the Martial View again with Mr. Kevin O'Hagan, who I'm absolutely privileged to have on. He is a genuine guy, highly respected, world-renowned martial artist and combat instructor. So thank you so much for coming on, Kevin. How are you doing?
You're welcome, Dan. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yes.
Perfect. So you've got such a background and you've got over 40 years in the martial arts so far. What keeps you coming back?
Just had a passion for it. It was something that from a 14-year-old boy I'd become interested in, and been interested and training ever since. Just loved it. It was something that I was looking for, and it just suited me perfectly. So I love my journey and getting to where I was, but also then enjoyed teaching and getting other people to their goals as well. And that still keeps me teaching today.
Yeah, perfect. So you said you started at 14, and was that with the traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu at that point, or did you move into that?
No. Back then, it was 1975. It was like the era of Bruce Lee. Okay. Everybody wanted to do kung fu, and that's where I started. And I'd done that for a couple of years. When the club finally folded, for a little while I'd done taekwondo, and I was into the punching and kicking side just simply because Bruce Lee was my idol at that time and a great influence. But then a friend of mine asked me if I wanted to go along to an Aikido class, and I went along, and to be honest, I just thought I can't get along with this. Yeah. And he said, well, give it a month and see what you think. So I give it a month, and I must admit the instructor, a guy whose name's John Bennett, become very influential in my training. He spent a lot of time and effort to try and help us, and I felt that I needed to give this a shot and not just walk away from it.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I trained in Aikido for 4 years in all the styles, directly under Japanese instruction, which was fantastic. But then that began to move me towards jiu-jitsu. I knew there was a link between, Aikido, jiu-jitsu, Aikijitsu.
Yeah.
And when I seen jiu-jitsu, it seemed to include everything that I was looking for. It had the striking side, it had the grappling, the throwing, etc. And that's really when I began to look for jiu-jitsu, because I knew this is what I wanted to really do. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So 4 years of Aikido then, and I'd argue that Aikido is one of the main arts that gets quite a lot of stick for being, there's a lot of bullshido out there. There's a lot of no-touch knockouts. It's not got the best reputation. What's your kind of opinion on that as someone who's...
No, it hasn't. I think really it's like every martial art. There's different people's interpretation of what they believe that art may be. In Aikido, for some people, it was quite soft, almost Tai Chi-like, some of the movements. Yet other guys I train with, if you said to them, I don't think your Aikido is effective, they would certainly tell you different. And I found as you went around different parts of the country, that would vary. I trained with quite a few guys up in Glasgow in Scotland, and they can make their Aikido work without a doubt.
They've got no choice there.
Yeah, I was fortunate to train with a legendary Aikido master, Chiba Sensei, who's sadly no longer with us. But in the 70s, 80s, he had an absolutely fearsome reputation. He was like a samurai that was put into modern times, and his Aikido was very direct, very abrupt, but similar to maybe early Steven Seagal portrayals in his films, and definitely, there's elements of it, but the same as everything, you've got to stay around in it long enough to appreciate it and pick up on those techniques. So mixed thoughts with it. Really, it just depends on the individual, I think.
Perfect. Yeah. So it led you to the Japanese jiu-jitsu then, like you said, it kind of filled in maybe some of the gaps that you were looking for with the throwing and the striking.
Yeah, I think the jiu-jitsu, I was seeing it in magazines and reading bits and pieces about it, and it seemed to concentrate on the more combative side of martial arts, very much self-defense orientated, which at the time as a young man, that's what I was looking for. Yeah. So that's what led me towards it, and it seemed to be a complete martial art where it covered everything. But for me, there was nothing in a 50-mile radius of Bristol, so I knew I was going to have to travel to get my instruction, and that started a journey of me traveling up to the north, Liverpool, particularly North Wales, where it was a big stronghold, and seeking out instructors that would train me. Most weekends I would be away training weekends with them, then bringing back that knowledge and gradually working with a small group of people with the view of trying to start my own club. There was nothing jiu-jitsu wise down here. I think once you sort of passed London, Birmingham, everybody thought, well, that's it. There's nothing beyond in the southwest. And I was determined to put Bristol on the map and to try and establish jiu-jitsu in the southwest. So it become a bit of a mission for me, to be honest. And for quite a few years, that was my goal, to be able to establish reputable jiu-jitsu in the southwest, and Bristol, particularly my hometown.
Perfect. And how did you find that? Did you find that the people were kind of quite open to jiu-jitsu, or did you struggle kind of?
I think at the time, Bristol predominantly was karate. Wadawu karate was massive. Taekwondo become massive, and there really wasn't any other diverse systems. So, in fact, when I eventually opened up my first club, people absolutely loved it because it was really something different. They hadn't seen anything like it. And again, there's many different interpretations of jiu-jitsu, but some of my instructors, they were from a military or security background, so they had adapted their jiu-jitsu really for, you know, the doors into the real world. So what I was teaching was maybe different to some other jiu-jitsu systems, and I think people just liked that practicality. There was sort of no holds barred, no rules, anything went, and people just love that freedom. I think, particularly if you come from a traditional martial art. Same as myself, with 4 years in Aikido, when I eventually found jiu-jitsu, it was like the leash was let off. You could do all these wonderful things that beforehand might have been frowned upon, but now people say, no, that's all right, you can do this, you can headbutt, you can bite people, you can break their arms, all this sort of thing. You thought, you know, if I was a kid in a sweet shop at sort of 20 years of age, I thought, this is what I want. Yeah. So I guess that translated to people who train with me, that enthusiasm that I had for the art. Hopefully people sort of you know, took that on board and enjoyed it. So yeah, they were great early pioneering days, and I enjoyed them. Yeah.
Perfect. You said that kind of the reality based or the self-defense was always forefront of your mind at that point. Was that because you were experiencing stuff in self, or the way you needed to defend yourself in real life, or was it just part of your personality, you wanted to question some of the traditional aspects and see if it worked in reality or in application, I suppose?
Yeah. Well, as a youngster, you know, I sort of grew up in quite a tough multiracial neighborhood, and there was always the potential of violence or danger on the doorstep. So as a young sort of 14, 15-year-old guy, I wasn't particularly big for my age, so I always felt vulnerable. And a lot of the martial arts that I learned really was to predominantly be able to look after myself when I was out and about, particularly because I moved into teenage years and, you know, sort of early 20s. I was looking for arts that would help me defend myself predominantly, more so than just doing it for the pleasure. Yeah. Also, three of my early instructors, which were Mike Marshall, again, sadly no longer here, Dave Turton, who's obviously well known, and Mickey Upham. Like I said, they all taught from a very practical side of things through their own experiences, and they were a great influence to me how I trained and taught jiu-jitsu, and also the mindset of wanting to use it as a practical combative art rather than just a martial art to train in. So yeah, it did help me a lot and give me a lot of confidence in my younger days.
Fantastic, good. And obviously you caught the bug for it, because, you know, now kind of 40 years later plus, you're still teaching, you're still training it, and, you know, having such a rich history in going into MMA, submission grappling, some of the early no holds barred competitions back in the 90s. How did the competition side come across, or how did it all develop?
Yeah, again, competition wise, there was lots of competition for karate, for judo, but there was really nothing for jiu-jitsu. And because predominantly jiu-jitsu was a self-defense art, there was really no sport inside thought about it. But if you wanted to test yourself, if you wanted to, you know, put some of these techniques on the line and see if they'd actually work under pressure, then jiu-jitsu people were really looking for some format that would be on a level playing field. If you went into karate competitions, but if you favored throwing, you were at a disadvantage, vice versa for judo. So one of the early competitions was set up was called Jiu-Jitsu Kumite, and it was set up by a gentleman called Ross Ilacaro, who's quite a well-known jiu-jitsu instructor in Birmingham, and he allowed striking and grappling together. And it was the first format, and it preceded MMA, knockdown budo, all the things that come on after it. And this was great for myself and other people, because now you could actually sort of test those skills in that live environment. So that was, first of all, the major purpose was just to going up and putting together some of these techniques and seeing how they work. So I took a team up there, and we went up there, and it was great. We done really well. The first time around in my weight, I won a gold medal. Second year, I come back and just lost in the final narrowly, and took a silver medal from it, which was nice. But I didn't predominantly go up there to win trophies and medals. It was just to test myself. I've always, throughout my martial arts career, wanted to test myself. And see how things hold up, how I handle fear, adrenaline, all the things that go hand in hand with combat. I believe you can't teach this unless you've had some type of experience in it, no matter what it is. And I felt that put me in a better stead to be able to teach jiu-jitsu and self-defense.
Yeah, and did you focus predominantly on the grappling side of it or the striking side of it then? Where was
funny. Although I do jiu-jitsu, people always say, well, that's that grappling stuff. But to be honest, I would say probably 80% of my combat jiu-jitsu is striking. I love striking. I've always been interested in boxing, and as a youth, youth clubs, I've done some boxing and stuff like that. So I always love that. But it is predominantly striking, and then secondary is the grappling stuff. So although when I was at my peak, I would say, I was decent enough on the floor. Really, it was the standing striking that I favoured, which also translates to the street, where if you need to get something done, you need to get it done quickly, and grappling would certainly be only a secondary option if you had no other choice. So going into MMA, it allowed you to be able to explore any of those routes. If you could keep it on your feet, that's great. If not, then obviously you needed to know what to do on the floor. So it was a natural transition from just training jiu-jitsu to move into MMA and see how you've done in that arena. Yeah,
definitely. And then the submission grappling as well. Did you find that another kind of test? So they take away your 80% tools at that point, you can't strike. So now just focus on the grappling. So
exactly. And that's what it was. It was taking away probably 80% of your game, and seeing if you could hold your own with some good grapplers. And I went everywhere. I just love training. I was fortunate to be able to train on seminars with Henzo Gracie, John Machado, Hoist Gracie, some of the top people, and obviously Neil Adams, and they all helped you develop your grappling. And I used to think, well, how could I hold up against a good grappler without using all these other skills? And that become the next challenge for me. And, many a time you got the floor white with you got tapped out, but you just come back again, and gradually you got better, you got success. And in the end, you were holding your own in that arena as well, which was nice to do.
Yeah. You've always kind of stuck with the combat jiu-jitsu and focused on that. Was there ever a point where you thought about moving to Brazilian jiu-jitsu when it moved across and became more popular? So did you ever think about just investing all of your time really into the BJJ and taking that path?
No, I don't think so. I think, to be honest, when BJJ came along, by then I was probably well in my 40s, early 40s, and to start something else again from scratch was something at that moment in time I didn't really feel I wanted to do. Although I trained with a lot of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu people, and they initially some of them come to my club initially when we were doing MMA. So I enjoyed it, but I also felt, because of the combative side of what I've always done, I felt there was too many rules, too many stipulations in what you could and couldn't do in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
And I felt if I went down that road, then your other skills would be eroded and they wouldn't be natural. I used to say to people, how did you get on when you first went into MMA and stuff like that? And I said, well, if you looked at the set of rules of all the things you couldn't do in MMA, I was doing these things on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So to be able to leave them at the mat side and not instinctively do them was really hard. And I got many, funny stories or occasions where under pressure, I've done something that's not meant to be in the rules and whatever. And then suddenly you get pulled up for it. So, I didn't want to lose that, because it is very, very easy if you start getting involved in martial arts. It's combative sports, should I say, that take you down a certain route. Then gradually that's where you go. So that was the reason I didn't really maybe pursue Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu further than just sort of enjoying training with the guys whenever I wanted to. Right.
That's fair. Yeah. So talking about some of the competitive rules, so obviously the Olympics is recently going on, and we've got the karate there, we've got the judo there, the taekwondo, and a lot of martial artists have got a lot of opinions on kind of the martial aspect now of the Olympic stuff.
Yeah.
And again, as someone who's had a wealth of experience in different things, what's your opinion on Olympic sport martial arts, should we say, or combative martial arts and things like that?
Yeah. Obviously, there's always going to be arguments and debates about, each martial art and whether it's effective or should they be. I think for me, just the fact that martial arts are being represented in the Olympics is a great thing. I don't think it matters what it is, whether it be karate, judo, but there's always going to be an armchair warrior sat there saying, "Oh, that's no good," or "That's not interesting." I mean, it's very much like Olympic wrestling for years. Unless you actually like Olympic wrestling, most people wouldn't watch it. They were bored watching two guys rolling around on the floor. What are they doing? Yeah, obviously it's got a rich history and it goes back, thousands of years. So from that side of things, I think just as it is an Olympic sport, then whichever martial art is, it's just nice to see it out there, really.
Yeah, 100%. Cool. And your own kind of MMA career there ended at 43 years age, which is an impressive age, to be fair. Kind of most go mid 30s, maybe late 30s, and that's kind of hanging up the gloves at that point and moving into coaching. But 43 went and won a European welterweight championship. So I'm in awe, to be honest with you. Like, I'm in awe. It's just the fitness side of it. I saw the fight. I think it's on YouTube. Talk me through it. Like, how did you train for that? Did your training have to adapt as you got slightly older, or have you always just kept yourself in kind of that level of fitness so age doesn't maybe takes less of an effect?
Yeah, it was a big moment for me. With the MMA, initially I'd done amateur format of MMA, and to be honest, at the time I put together a small group of guys to go up and to fight in one of the first amateur MMA tournaments here. It was in Bath. But as I was getting near it, I thought, I wonder if I could maybe have a go. And I was about 37 at the time, and I thought, well, nothing ventured, nothing gained, let's do it. So I went up and I competed and got on all right. And then I thought, well, I'll carry on. So in the end, I had maybe 12 or 14 amateur MMA fights. And then I thought, could I have a semi-pro fight? Could I get in the cage, have a semi-pro fight? So I had a couple of semi-pro fights afterwards. But then I was heading towards, 42, 43. And I thought I'd really like to have a full professional MMA fight in the cage, just to be able to draw a line under that and say, look, I've tested myself in all the sort of formats. So the opportunity come about again. At the time I was training James Thompson, a couple of other guys, and they were fighting on a big show in Bristol. And the promoter said to me, you know what would really be nice? If you fought in front of your home crowd. Now, I had no intention of doing this, and I told my wife Tina after the last fight, that's it, I'm retiring. I remember I come downstairs from making a phone call, and I never said anything. She looked at me and said, "You're fighting again, aren't you?" And I went, "Yeah, I am." So the pressure was on then. From then, once people knew I was fighting, home crowd, loads of people want to come and see.
Yeah.
There's probably as many people there wanting to see me get my ass kicked as there was people wanting to,
50-50.
to congratulate you. There's lots of people, oh, you're too old, what are you doing that for, blah, blah, blah. But I had that belief in me that I was still fit. I've always trained, and particularly in 20s and 30s, I trained prolifically. Like some of the stuff I've done, I look back now and think, I don't know, I'm still here with 2 arms and legs. But I knew, although it would be tough, I felt I was fit enough, strong enough, and the technique was there. My opponent was very, very good. Sammy Barrett went on to, have a long MMA career, but I just felt experience that I could win the fight. So that's what got me there. And on the day, the pressure was incredible. But fortunate enough, I got the win. I always remember it was right at the end of the first round. I mean, it was at the end of like nearly about 5 minutes. And I got it. And I always remember when I won it, saying to my corner man, I was like, I'm glad that didn't go a second round, because I really felt it. Everybody said it was the round of the show. It was so fast. Yeah. What I planned to do, I'd seen Sam and I thought, I'll come out and I'll stand up with him. I think I can win this stood up. But he come out so fast, and we went to the floor, and the fight stayed on the floor. Yeah. I never got back up again. So the game plan went out the window, and I had to change the second game plan. But I just felt on the floor. I just felt I was stronger than him, and I didn't think he could really hurt me. So I was just fortunate to, when he turned his back and sunk that choke in, that was a special moment. Yeah.
Did you feel at that point you could draw a line under it then, or did you?
Yeah, I think so.
Could I push it a bit further?
I think if I'd lost, I probably would have thought maybe I'll come back again. I was offered, from the European title shot and to go on from there, but I was smart enough to know I enjoyed it, but it was hard. I'm not, like you said quite rightly, you could do that at 33 and think, wow, that is tough. But at that age, I just thought, I probably got myself up in the best shape if I can for that fight, but whether I could do it again and sustain it, when really I never intended to go that far in MMA. I just decided maybe it was the best time to go out on a win in front of a home crowd. I don't think really you could better that.
Yeah, 100%. You don't really teach regular classes anymore, do you? You kind of focus on specialized groups, one-to-ones, things like that. Why did that shift come about, perhaps?
I think really because of MMA, BJJ. I find a lot of younger guys, they want to compete. They want to test themselves. So they tend to go towards MMA or BJJ for that reason. So I found that not many younger people were coming into the combat jiu-jitsu, which was a shame. But if that's the way things were heading, you sort of had to accept that. So then I decided I'd rather train with people that were predominantly interested in the combative side of the art and self-defense. So I chose then to train privately or small groups, or to do seminars where the people that come on them specifically want to come and train with me and train in the more combative aspects. One of the things for me, which I'm trying to work hard to do, is to preserve that side of the art, to preserve the origins of where jiu-jitsu come from, and be able to take a technique that's practical now, but be able to show where it come from 2,500 years ago,
the lineage,
which is great. Otherwise, that side of things died, and I love BJJ. I've got some great friends and colleagues in it, but I feel for some people, that's their only perception of jiu-jitsu. Yeah. When you speak to people, they'll say, well, that's that floor stuff where you roll around on the floor, and you think, well, there's a lot more to it than that. And but unfortunately, a lot of my peers have now either passed away or retired from the mat. So I feel, I'm up there now in that group that needs to try and keep going and promoting this side of things, so it doesn't die.
For it,
and to get people to black belt instructor level where they can carry this on so that it doesn't die away completely.
Yeah. And talking of kind of your syllabus and black belt syllabus and things like that, what does a black belt for you mean? So if you're a black belt in any martial art, but especially your martial art and your system, what do you think a black belt needs to show and needs to be?
Yeah, I think there's two things. I think first of all, any belt is a marker of time you've spent in that chosen art, and a black belt again is a marker of you having stayed in that art, so you've got to a reasonable level and degree of skill. But again, coming from the background of Japanese instruction, they always said that's the start. When you get your black belt, now you start learning.
Yeah.
So I still think of that, you know, as you get your black belt. I got my first black belt at 21. I was over the moon. I thought I knew everything. But 10 years down the line, I realized actually I didn't. You know, I was at a reasonable level, but then you realize there's more and more that goes on. So I think, yeah, it's just a marker. It's an award to say, look, you've devoted X number of years and time, discipline, effort into your art, which is nice, but it doesn't make you a Superman. It doesn't make you invincible. And out on the streets, you're not wearing a black belt. So, you know, I think that's it. For me also, I did try and keep, you know, the sort of virtues and what the samurai believed in, and that's to have a black belt. You need to be a black belt on the mat and a black belt off the mat, and try and lead your life that way. We're all human, we all make mistakes, we've all got failings, but martial arts have helped me being stronger and more disciplined in other areas of my life as well. And you know, I like to think that's translated over to other people that I've taught. So I think you need to, you know, be humble. You need to sort of, your ego needs to be crushed, left at the mat side. But at the same time, you know, if you sort of poke an old lion long enough, they're going to bite you. And that's how I try to see things, you know. But I'm quite happy to invisibly walk around, and, you know, I don't have to sort of prove anything to people. It's out there. I've done what I've done, but now I'm quite happy to, you know, let other people get on with it and blaze their trail as well. Like, if I can help them, then, you know, I will help them.
Amazing. Yeah, cool. You've done some other stuff as well then, so a man of many talents, as we said at the start. You've done some video series that I've just been having a look at. It looks really good, as well as being an author for fiction and non-fiction books. So how easy did you find it to kind of put a pen to paper and start writing and get your thoughts out?
Yeah, it's difficult. The first person that really helped or encouraged me with my writing was Jeff Thompson, and I had quite a close relationship with Jeff, particularly in the 90s. Again, he was a great inspiration to me, and his journey and the things he was talking about, there was so many similarities. I felt I had to meet him.
Yeah.
So when I met him, we trained, and that was great. But at the time, he was into his writing. I just asked him, give me a little bit of advice. And I started writing for martial arts magazines back in the day, Combat, Fighters, those type of things. And it gave me a bit of a foot in the door, and helped me begin to write, put together stuff that I wanted to get out there to people and for people to know my name. Then on the back of that, the same as anything, you get to the point where you think, could I write a book? You know, I've got an idea, I would like to do it. So I thought, well, let's give it a go. Which I did. I was fortunate enough to find a publisher, another old martial arts friend of mine, Jamie O'Keefe, and he published this through New Breed. And then that gave me an outlet. He said, look, if you want to write more, then I'll publish. So I carried on. The writing was, I've always enjoyed writing, although I'm not an academic in any shape or form. I left school at 15 with very few qualifications, but it was something I liked. I love reading, and writing become natural. So from there, then I just wrote prolifically, really, martial arts stuff, books, pamphlets, you know, everything. But part of it was to try and get this stuff down as well on paper, because it was all up here. But I felt the need at a certain time in my life to get this information down and out there to other people. So I was again on a bit of a mission where I was writing and trying to get everything down. But then when you get to the point where you feel like I've said what I wanted to say, my real passion was from a child was to write a fictional book. And that was that was hard as any black belt grading I've ever done, because it was just something that really pushed me out of my comfort zone. And I wrote some short stories, first of all, to see how I would get on. And then I just thought, no, I'd really like to write a full-blown novel. So that started that journey, which was great, a real great learning experience again. And when I done it. I thought, brilliant. I thought, I've done it. The same as everything else. But then I thought, you know what? I've got an idea. I've got an idea for another one.
Yeah, yeah.
And on the back of that, an idea for another. And now this has become something that, I want to keep pursuing and see how far I can go with it. I'm still learning. I'm still learning about writing all the time. I know by no means like Stephen King, but it's something that I find another challenge. As you get older, physically, there's only so much you can do. I feel I've met every physical challenge out there really over the years. And I just wanted to make sure, how could I challenge myself in other shapes or forms? And this time writing has challenged me mentally, and it's just as satisfying as when I've been training.
Perfect. What are the names of some of your fiction books then?
Okay, if I've done a trio called Battle Scars, No Hiding Place, and Last Stand, and they were all about a fictional character who's an ex-paratrooper martial artist who fell on hard times and gets involved in some different situations where he's got to get himself out of them. And it started off as one book, but then I another 2 books on the back of that, so it was a trilogy for those. And then recently I've wrote another couple of standalone books, and there's another one in the pipeline as well. They're all on Amazon. If you just put my name in there, they'll pop up along with obviously the autobiography I've done as well when we were warriors, and some of my older books from back in the day.
Fantastic. Is that more of the focus for you at the moment, and then looking into the future in kind of 2022, 23 and onwards? Are you going to focus more on the writing side, do you think?
Still a split of both. I've still got private students that are training with me, which I would like to get them to black belt. One just recently, a couple of weeks back, got to there. He's been training with me 7 years. I've got others that are, heading towards it, and I would like to have them as the last generation really of probably black belts that I would personally teach. So that keeps me going. I've still got that. I won't sort of half do a job. I'm going to have to finish it, whether it kills me or not. I will do that. But in the same token, when I'm away from the gym, which is more often these days, because for years I just lived in there 24/7, I needed something else to focus on. And that's where the writing comes into play, which I enjoy, and I find it relaxing as well.
Cathartic. Yeah. Kevin, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I've got heaps and heaps of respect for you, as many people in the martial arts world do. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat.
That's all right. You're welcome. I enjoyed it. Nice to speak to you, Dan.
Yeah, you too. All right. Thank you so much, Kevin. Take care.
Thank you.